don't have to. Okay. Oh, I keep forgetting we have no music. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. Last time I saw you, John, it was last year. So what's been going on in there? That's a big statement. Not much. Yeah. SSDD. SSDD. Same stuff, different day. That could happen. Well, anyways, I want to welcome everybody for the new year to the Flaminpit Show, and we're going to start calling this the Pit, because I'm going to have to start getting dirty in here sometime just to spice things up. But not today. I'm going to be good today. Today, my guest is Mr. Danny Paul, local country music star. Do you have a star somewhere on the sidewalk?
You know what? Not yet, Lisa, but I'm waiting and I'm open to the idea. The first thing they do, if they offer it, I'm going to snatch it.
That's right. We're going to go outside in the snow and make you a star.
You know what? If you'll supply the walk, I'll do the star. I'll be the star if you give me the walk.
That's right. You know? And also, Danny is one of our local wrestling mania people. You know, he's like a referee here and there, big time PPW and all that. But before we get to all of that, we're going to say how you been, Danny. I mean, I was surprised to see you at the last event. I hadn't seen you in probably a year, so I didn't even know you were still around.
Well, you know what? Like a fine wine, I'd like to think that I improve with age, Lisa.
He stayed up all night waiting on that one.
I made sure I set my alarm clock to get up for that. But actually, I'm doing great, Lisa. I want to also join with you in welcoming all the listeners to the Pit Show, and also wish them a very happy and prosperous 2015.
Yeah.
I've been doing well and just trying to stay warm with this cold snap we've had.
Oh my goodness, my hands are still cold. I mean, I pretty much want to sit on them because it was just so cold. I got to bring out my big gloves now.
Well, you know what? I thought about going and taking the car in and getting some of those bun warmers. And I'd like some toasty buns, so I think I'm going to run down to the car shop and see if I can't get some heated seats.
And the heated steering wheel. And
just turn the heat up.
Turn the heat up, like, turn up for what?
Yes, ma'am. How have you been? How have you been doing?
Well, I've been doing really well. I don't know if you know, I'm a first-time author now, and this is my book. I usually always set it up. It's not to take anything away from you or anything.
No, not at all. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's just one of those things I always wanted to do, and it's my life story, being a polio survivor, and, different things like that. But back to you now. Tell us, what did you come to talk about today? What did you come to tell me today?
Well, you know what? First of all, I came to say hello to you and the listeners, and again, also to wish everyone a very happy 2015 New Year. But just came and just wanted to say hello, and you mentioned to me, and to the listeners rather, about being a country music entertainer. Yes, I have for many years, and I've been very blessed and fortunate. And
so you're rich and famous from country music.
Well, I don't know about the first, but the famous depends upon who you ask.
Yeah.
And someone once told me that I was a legend in my own mind.
And you thought,
and I thought, you know what?
That.
I said, you know what? That sounds pretty good. I think it'll stick. But in terms of finances, I'm so poor I couldn't even afford to pay attention.
Yeah, I hear you on that one.
But you know what? I think that's just the American way of life.
Yeah.
But
if you lived in another country, you'd probably be richer because we send our money there.
Yes. Import. I need to become an import.
Import, yeah.
But actually, Lisa, I came and just wanted to say hello to everyone, and mentioning and referring to music, of course. Country music lost one of its real treasures, and surely at the Grand Ole Opry this past Friday, that being little Jimmy Dickens, who was 94.
Wow.
He was the oldest member of the Grand Ole Opry. He had been on the show since 1948.
Wow.
And he performed just in 2 weeks prior to his death on the Grand Ole Opry at the age of 94. He's a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, the CMA. But he's also a member of the Michigan Country Music Hall of Fame. And I'm very flattered and humbled that little Jimmy and myself shared a common characteristic. Jimmy was one of the first inductees into our Michigan Country Music Hall of Fame in 1975, and my induction took place in 2005. So I had the pleasure of sharing the 5 with little Jimmy Dickens in our induction. What a great man, what a great treasure, what a real gentleman and a real showman. Surely the Grand Ole Opry and country music in general will miss little Jimmy, or as he was affectionately known to his many fans and followers as Tater. He was only 4'11". He was little, but he was loud. But a great performer and a real icon in country music and a legendary status. So on behalf of the Michigan Country Music Hall of Fame and yours truly, we surely want to offer condolences to the family and, just to express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude for his many, many years of contributions to country music.
Now, when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, is that like the one down in Cincinnati?
No, that our Country Music Hall of Fame is currently located outside of Kalamazoo. However, though, they have there's a plan of relocating the Hall of Fame, and it still is not definite as to where it's going to be relocated. But currently, it's in Delton, Michigan, which is located outside of Kalamazoo at Prairieville Farms.
Must be small. I never heard of it.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, with the coming year and time changes everything, we're hopeful that maybe the change of location in the new year might bring some positive changes, and hopefully we can change that so folks are familiar with the Michigan Country Music Hall of Fame, and that some of our notable members include little Jimmy Dickens, who just passed away here this past weekend, and Jack Scott, who recorded the classic Burning Bridges and What in the World's Come Over You, and Tommy Durden, who co-wrote, I'm sure, Lesa, you've heard the classic of Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
Tommy Durden lived up in northern Michigan, and he co-wrote that back in the 1950s with Mabor and Axton. That became one of Elvis's great, great classics. And also Skeeter Davis, who recorded the classic in 1963 called The End of the World. Don't they know it's the end of the world? Skeeter is also a member of our Michigan Country Music Hall of Fame. So those are some of our notable members. But as I say, we're in the process of changing our location, and hopefully when that happens, it will only spell bigger and better things for our Hall of Fame.
Because, like I said, I never heard of it. I figure it would be nice to have like tours and different things like that if they were in a city that people recognize, like Kalamazoo.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, that's one of the things that we would prefer to change, and we're hoping that maybe we could get a little better location so that it would be more accessible for the fans and for the folks that enjoy true traditional country music, which incidentally I've got to tell the listeners, and I love doing this. When I came in this morning to join Lesa on the show here, I brought my calling card, and I have done my very best to convert our lovely hostess into a coffee drinker.
No!
And however, our sound man John, I think I have converted him.
John, are you converted? Oh, he's gone.
Well, you know what, Lesa? It was so good.
He ran away.
He had to go get some more. John can attest to the sweetness of what I brought this morning here for our radio show.
Taste it, John. Let me hear you slurp it.
Thank you, sir.
So you drink your coffee with no sugar?
I drink every way. I drink with cream, I drink with sugar, I drink with black, I drink with those creamers.
Uh-huh.
So I change it up all the time.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, and for the sake of the listeners, of course, they can't see what I did, but I brought in a flavoring and it's made by the International Dairy Delight Company. And it's
I.D.
called Southern Butter Pecan. And if you like butter pecan ice cream, that's what it tastes like.
No, it does not.
Lesa,
It might
you know
taste
what?
like it if it wasn't in coffee. 'Cause I eat butter pecan ice cream, and this doesn't taste like.
You know what? I like Federal Express, folks. I never leave home without it.
I know
carry
last
it
time
with
you was
me.
here, you brought it too. Come to
Yes,
think of it.
yes, I carry it with me wherever I go. And I think you just haven't drank enough of it, Lesa. If you drink a little bit more of it, it'll be like a fungus. It'll grow on.
He's gonna try to convert me, but I'm not a convertible.
I hope that changes. But if y'all enjoy good coffee creamer, that's a plug for that company. They can go ahead and issue me a check later for that.
They can give me a check for bringing you on to promote their.
You know what? We'll both get a check. How about that? Okay. But
Oh, in that case, good.
and I'll amen in a second that.
Yeah, he's trying to convert me, but I don't think it. And see, I've never been a coffee drinker. My grandmother used to drink coffee all the time, and when I was a kid, we would sneak it because it was something that you weren't supposed to have.
Yes.
But then as I got older, I was like, I don't like coffee.
Well, you know what? When I was growing up, which was just a few years
yesterday.
ago, just
Yeah.
a couple years
Yesterday.
ago, when I was a young man, folks told me that if you drink enough coffee, that'll grow hair on your chest. And obviously, I haven't drank enough because I don't have a hairy chest. But I'm still working on it, Lesa.
Still drinking that coffee.
I'm still
Drink
putting it
the
away,
coffee.
hoping that Wonder Grow will work.
You gotta put some Miracle Grow on it.
I think I need to cultivate it.
Yes. How many women? I hope none of them.
Well, you know what? I'm an equal opportunity employer, folks. But I'll tell you what: the day that I see a lady with a hairier chest than myself is the day that I want to head for the hills.
It's time to run.
I'm going to pack up and go.
Right. So tell us about your long career of being a country star, because when I look at your resume, it's like this long. See, everybody can't see it, but I see it's about this long.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. But, as I said, first and foremost, Lesa, I've been blessed. As a young boy, I grew up singing in church. My mama always made us go to church, and I'm very grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And then later, my dad was an avid fan of an entertainer by the name of the Singing Ranger Hank Snow. And my dad and I used to set up into the early morning hours on Friday and Saturday nights, and we'd listen to the age-old show, the Grand Ole Opry from Nashville, Tennessee. Have you ever heard of the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah, we
Lesa?
watched it. I mean, I'm black, but we still watched it.
Well, you know what?
I watched Yeehaw too.
Every Saturday night in Roy Clark, Cornfield County.
Yep, I love Yeehaw.
Yes,
we used to
yes,
watch that all the time,
yes.
especially when they out in the field and they pop up and they say something silly and they go back down.
Yes. I'll tell you what great memories I have of that. But on Friday and Saturday nights, my dad and I would set up. Daddy and I would listen to the Grand Ole Opry and just listen to all of the legendary performers entertain. And then following the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday nights, we'd listen to the Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree. Mm-hmm. And so...
I like Dolly Parton. I never could understand how her boobs just set so well. She used to say, I have to buy an industrial strength bra for these.
Well,
she's the only person I know that her boobs does not jiggle.
No, you know what? I think she probably has a pretty stiff workout regimen for those.
Like a bra big enough for my head.
Now, you know what? I will tell you this. I had the pleasure a few years ago of working with Dolly's younger sister, Stella Parton, who have made numerous guest appearances on the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard.
I love
Do you remember The Dukes of Hazzard with
Bo
Tom
Duke.
Wolpat?
Yeah, they
John
have a commercial
Snyder?
now. They just got a new commercial.
Well, I'll tell you, Stella's a beautiful country Christian lady, very, very similar to Dolly, with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah, a couple.
But a wonderful,
I don't know
talented
how she carried
lady.
those. She's only about this big.
But she's quite a lady. Mm-hmm. And so in all sincerity, I've been very, very blessed. And you know what? I will say this first and foremost. I've had a lot of love and support and above all blessings from up above. I believe that all things are possible through Jesus Christ. And you know what? Anything that I've had the pleasure of experiencing, I believe in giving credit where credit's due. Nothing is possible without Jesus Christ. And so I'm very grateful for those blessings. Oftentimes I'll look back and I look at some of the awards and the accolades that are hanging on the wall, and I think just how blessed and how fortunate I truly am. Mm-hmm. We discussed earlier, Lesa, about fortune and fame. You know what? I think the measure of an individual is what they leave behind. My personal prayer is actually an old piece of poetry, and it was written by Helen Steiner Rice, and if you don't mind, I'll share it with you and the listeners.
Okay.
And I think it says a great deal. I think it's very heavy, and it simply says, "Lord, let my eyes see the need of every man. Make me stop and always lend a helping hand. When I'm laid beneath that little grassy mound, let there be more friends around than leaves upon the ground. To your grave there's no use taking any gold. You cannot use it when it's time for hands to fold. When you leave this earth for a better home someday, the only thing you'll take is what you gave away." And my belief is simply that. My wealth will be determined by what I've given away and what I've left behind. If I've given a lot away and if I've left a lot of good things behind, then that will make me a very wealthy man, and I would say that I was extremely wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that takes away from all the material stuff that people are so hung up on.
Yes. You know what? Let me tell you something. We both realize, Lesa, that money is nice, but you know what? Money isn't everything. Money doesn't buy happiness. It surely does help, but it is not the sole source of happiness.
Yeah. I tend to say that too, because I'm always broke.
You know what? I understand completely, and I totally agree. As I mentioned before at the top of the show, I'm so poor I couldn't even afford to pay attention. But you know what? I'm blessed. Mm-hmm. And as we go through, well, for example, this past holiday season, we see the people that are on the streets homeless with signs. How unfortunate. How blessed and fortunate we are to have a home to go to, have food on our table, have transportation. Those are just things that so many people take for granted.
Now, some of those people are not actually homeless. They've been busted out, and people videotape them. So they make the other ones who might really be homeless, give them a bad rap. Because this lady followed this one group together. They were standing down by Miller Road, and she videotaped them going around after they panhandled. They went and got into this BMW.
Yes.
And drove on down the road, dividing up the money. You could see them in the back seat, handing them over their money.
Yes.
So sometimes, I always like to give people, I used to do it all the time. Like every time I'd see somebody, I'd just give them money. So my son and I was at the Birch Run exit one day, mm-hmm. and this guy was standing on a big old sign. He's like, "I'm a veteran. I need help, this and that." So I had like $3, mm-hmm. like right here. So I told my son, I said, "Well, we'll just give him this $3. Do you know the man told me, he said, "No, you keep it. You need it more than I do."
Yes.
From that point, I was like, what? Right. Me and my boy looked at each other. We like, did he really turn the money down?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well. So from that point on, I was through with it.
Well, Lesa, I totally have a sympathetic heart, and I believe in helping those that are less fortunate than ourselves. However, I tend to agree with you. My personal belief is this. Lesa, for all of the time that the panhandlers are out there standing hour after hour in inclement weather conditions, or even in nice weather, they could be out looking for a job.
Right.
If they spend 8 hours a day out there standing, panhandling, those 8 hours could be used
Looking for
a job.
Because to me, they say, well, I'm disabled. Well, but you're standing.
Yes. and you know, we have had some bitterly cold weather these past few days. That in itself, that's a job in itself, just to stand out there in those kind of conditions. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they have public transportation?
We do. And there are shelters, too.
Yes, and there are many shelters, exactly.
There
So
are shelters.
There is no need for that type of thing. As you mentioned before, we have many people that are needing help. And for those, my heart goes out to them. My wallet is opened up to them. But for those that you've mentioned before that take advantage of us, people that are truly good-hearted and trying to help, it gives it a bad name. It makes it very unfortunate that we can't determine who's being honest and truthful versus who's being deceitful. Right.
That's the thing that gets me, because you don't know. You want to help, but that could be the main person that's driving a BMW.
Yes.
And I drive a Chevy, and you're driving a BMW. Come on.
Well, I will tell you exactly, and I drive a Ford with over 100,000 miles on it. So you know what? But it is what it is. You know, I am grateful. That still beats walking.
Right.
And it's
warm.
Yes, and it's got a heater that works.
Yeah. Of course, you need the toasty buns.
Yeah, you know what? That's one thing that Ho-Ho forgot to bring me. I'm going to put it on my wish list for next year.
For next year. Or later this year.
Yes, not unless I strike gold somewhere.
Well, when you start coming out with new albums and stuff, you know.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You know what? The bottom line is... you know what? Dabble, do ya? And if it gets too cold, folks, you might see me on the street corner with a sign. And if you do, don't throw me money. Just throw me a heated seat with a bun warmer. Let me have some toasty bones. Buns, rather. I'm sorry. And bones, too.
Yeah.
Buns and bones.
We'll ride by and splash you. Be like, oops, my bad.
You know what? I'll say, if I see that HHR, and I know I'm in trouble.
Well, what about you coming out with some new music? You got anything in the works as far as coming up with albums or singles?
Well, you know, it's been a while since I've recorded anything, but with the coming year, the new year, I'm thinking about going back into the studio and maybe doing some new music. You know, there's all kinds of good music out there, and so this is a new year and a new beginning. So I think there'll be something coming in the works.
Yeah.
This year.
Have you ever been riding and listening to some music and you think, gee, that could be a nice gospel song? You ever done any gospel music?
Oh yes, yes. In fact, well, as I mentioned, Lisa, as a young man, I grew up singing in church. And, you know, country music and gospel music go hand in hand. You know, many to most of the country music artists. If you go to a country music concert, it's very, very rare that you don't hear a gospel song in a show. And if you listen to, again, many to most of the interviews from country music artists, they will tell you that they began their career singing in church. So the two, are just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They just jam together. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm making myself hungry. I reckon I better stop.
Well, you're getting the point across. You said they sort of jam together.
Yes, and did you like my pun?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It was just like too smooth.
Yeah, you know
instead of crunchy.
Well, now that you mention smooth, some folks say that my middle name is Smooth.
What is it?
Smooth.
It is not smooth. I I thought you was going to tell me a name that just rolls off your tongue, you know.
Well, no, actually, my middle name is Keith. My middle name is Keith.
So you got 3 first names?
No, not quite. I think one's enough, but, a common misconception is folks assume when I introduce myself that my name is Danny, but they assume that my given name is Daniel, and that's not the case. My mammy is from Pike County, Kentucky. She comes from Loretta Lynn's part of the world. Have you heard of Loretta Lynn?
Oh, yeah, I know
the
Loretta
coal
Lynn.
miner's daughter?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you something. Mammy come from that part of the world. Mm-hmm. And Mammy, being a Southern belle, she named me Danny. She did not name me Daniel.
Well, that's usually the perception of any name is sort of like, I'll name you Daniel, but I call you Danny.
Yes.
And I know people like, okay, my name is William, call me Bill. I
Yes.
always say, why don't you just give them the name you want to be called from the beginning? Why do we have to have a nickname?
Yes. Well, now I will tell you this, that, as I was when a young boy, when I was misbehaving, which was very, very rare.
They say your whole name, all your name.
You know what? I would have to go back to the calendar many, many years ago I acted up one time back in
Yeah.
It was so long ago I forgot. But that one time that I acted up, one of the person that I had upset referred to me as Daniel and kept addressing me as Daniel. I totally blocked it out. Mm-hmm. Did not acknowledge it.
That's my name. That's not my name.
They said, I'm talking to you,
Daniel.
That's right. And my response was, you are talking to someone named Daniel. That is not my name. My name is Danny. Therefore, I don't have to acknowledge you. Needless to say, I really made him upset.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what? But my real name is Danny. My mammy named me Danny. And but I will tell you this. My middle name, I share that with 2 uncles. One from my daddy's side and one from my mammy's side. My mammy has a brother named Donnie Keith, and my daddy has a brother named Donald Keith. So mammy named me Danny Keith. So isn't that interesting?
So where'd the Paul come from?
Well,
Is that your stage name?
Yeah, you know what? My last name is rather complex, and I said I got tired of being called everything under the sun.
So it's one of those they can't pronounce?
Yes.
Well, mine's only 5 letters and people had trouble with it, so how hard could it be?
Well, my last name is French, and it's pronounced Paul Matier.
Okay.
And you can see why I use Paul.
So it's Paul Matier.
Yes.
You just cut it off.
Yes, I just took the first half of the last name.
I had a friend's last name was Georgopoulos. When we were in school, and they called him, he cut it off to George.
Yes.
You know.
Well, you know what? I've often said this, though. If I should ever have another career, I've already got that stage name. Mm-hmm. And I gave it to you a moment ago, which is simply Danny Keith. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm just looking for one more field to get into so I could have one more alias. I've already got 2, so
Danny
now...
Keith, Danny Paul, you need one more, Danny Matier.
Yeah.
Take the other half.
Well, you know what? I'm getting quite a few. Of course, the other alias I have revolves around professional wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And that being Thunder Dan Marley. So... Danny Paul, Thunder Dan Marley. I just need one more, and I've got it. And
well, if you were Marley, shouldn't you have some dreads or something like?
You know what?
Or blunt.
Well, you know what? Well, the bottom line is this. Yeah, I thought about that, but I better first learn how to handle a basketball. You've never seen me play basketball. But
you have to come out with your Jamaican accent.
Yeah,
so you don't
yes.
have to switch sides altogether.
You know what? I thought about going to one of them hypnotists and get hypnotized and see if when I get ready to transform into the Thunder Dan Marley mode,
right,
then I can just fit and slither and slide right into that.
I don't think you want to get hypnotized because, see, she might have some keys in there that people in the audience might yell out something and you may just start doing crazy stuff.
Well, now, you know what? Let me tell you something. I don't have to be hypnotized to have that happen.
Right. Well, we know a hypnotist, right, John? Let's get Mary Jane in here and put it on there.
Lord of mercy.
That would be too. They tried to get me to get hypnotized. I had one guest that's a hypnotist.
Really?
They tried their best to do. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. She's like, oh, no, it's not like that. You need to come to one of my classes. I was like, no, thank you.
Well, you know what? I have never been hypnotized before, but now, honestly, I have heard that some folks get great results with those, but I don't like the idea of anyone having control over my thoughts or actions.
That's a misconception. See, I have a aunt, or it's a cousin actually, on my side. She's a hypnotherapist, and so I was exposed at an early age, and it's not like they show on TV. TV is ludicrous. I mean,
I think it's funny on TV when they have you barking and turning flips and stuff. And
years ago, the old movies, like TV movies, they have somebody like programmed to kill people.
yeah, I like that. Maybe they could make me invisible and program me to kill. I'm already delusional. I want an illusion.
Well, Lisa, let me tell you something this. Now, the first time you decide to go on a killing spree, please let me know so I can tell you that I'm not available.
I might need a ride or die. You come with me. We be like Bonnie and Clyde.
You know what? I love you, honey, but from a distance.
I was watching Bonnie and Clyde over the holidays back, and I love that show. And it's just always amazed me. I mean, I know all the lines, and when they get killed at the end, it's true romance.
Yeah. Now, you know what? Now, talking about old shows and nostalgia and that type of stuff, you know what I enjoy doing? I have satellite television at home, and they have a channel. I believe it's 232. It's rural television, but they put a lot of the old shows on. And I'll tell you what, one of my favorite shows, I love watching the old reruns of shows like this, but that is the show that starred Jimmy Walker, Esther Roll, and James Amos.
Yeah.
Good Times. You know what? I love shows like that, and I don't watch a lot of television. Most of my television is that nostalgic type of television. Folks like shows like Good Times, Starsky and Hutch. Those are two of my favorite shows, and I watch those, and I think, you know what? I was just a little fellow when those came on, and
I was young when a lot of it come on, but I remember watching it from kid all the way up. I remember when it started in black and white and worked its way into color. So I've been watching them a long time. And my son watches a lot of them now, and some of them he knew about, and some of the real old ones like Petticoat Junction and ones like that he didn't know anything about, but I could tell him stories.
Sure.
You know?
I remember.
I go far back as to when we listened to the TV on the radio.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I talk about in my book is like when I lived on the farm, we did stuff like that. And a lot of people are like, well, you're not that old. How do you remember all that? And I remember because I lived it.
Well, you know, speaking of your book, if you don't mind, I haven't had the pleasure of reading it yet, though I'd like to. Maybe you could kind of just give me some of the high points of the book that you think might be of interest to the listeners.
Well, I liked the part about living on the farm. I think that was the most fun of my life because I am a country girl. And
Amen to that.
Yeah, I would rather live in the country than in the city. And, you know, growing up, I lived with my grandmother, so we did chores in the morning. People don't know what chores are anymore.
Yes.
I mean, slapping the hogs and feeding the chickens. And then going in and getting ready to go to school. You know, we had to walk so far to get up the levee to catch the bus.
Yes.
You know, people don't understand. The kids these days got it too easy. They didn't do any of that.
No.
So that's I think that's my best chapter. And then my best friends growing up, I've got I had 3 best friends, and one of them passed away. But we've been friends since 13 years old, and we're still friends today.
Wow.
And one of them, we're both 61 years old. And the other one, you know, we've been friends for as long. You know, she just turned 58. So it's one of those things that, some things like your friends are hard to find, and to keep them that long is a miracle.
Sure. Well, now, I can surely, I can attest to that from what I've heard. However, I was born in the city, in Flint, in fact. However, my father's family grew up in a small town in the Upper Peninsula called Garden. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's not too far from Manistee or Escanaba.
Oh, I don't know. I heard the names, but I have no clue where they are.
Okay, well, now I know that I've heard my daddy say many times, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have heard the old feeling and statement of where you can take the person out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the person.
Yeah, that's true, because I love living in the country.
So I've heard
fresh air.
Yes,
and
I've heard that many times. But my daddy's family ran a farm in the Upper Peninsula, and then they migrated down into the lower Michigan area in the 1940s, and but I've heard many stories of how simple life was. Mm-hmm. But as you've mentioned, that though if kids today were to hear of the things that were done on the farm, minus all of the conveniences that they have today,
right?
How different it would be.
Yeah.
I recall, my daddy mentioning milking cows. Mm-hmm. They all had several cows. They would get up, do that in the morning before they would go to school. Mm-hmm. How they would walk for miles.
Yep. When I tell that story,
snow.
Well, I'm from Arkansas. We didn't have the snow, but we had to walk through a pasture with cows and bulls.
Okay, yes.
And the old story, which I found was a myth later, was don't wear red by bulls, but bulls are really colorblind. So it's not the color, it's the motion when they see people moving.
Okay.
But we didn't know that back then. They would just say, don't wear red because you got to go through the pasture. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I tended to stay away from red.
now, as an entertainer, red's one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
I surely wouldn't want to go out and entertain those bulls.
But it was like we had to walk so far. Like my grandmother would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. She'd make us breakfast, which would be like whatever we had for dinner. You have biscuits and rice and gravy and all that stuff for breakfast.
You know what? I wish I was at your granny's.
Yeah, I mean we didn't have like cold cereal. We didn't have any of that.
Homemade.
She cooked everything from scratch.
Yes.
And so she taught me to cook, and I know about learn how to clean house. And when we got to the animals, it was like we had chickens. My uncles hunted for rabbits, and when people started talking about the strange things they eat, and I said, well, we ate raccoons and possums, and they like, ew. I was like, well, back then that's what we ate.
Yes.
Now I don't want to eat raccoons and possums. Right. And when they would bring them home, then they would like throw them up in the fire, and it would singe all the hair off of them before they start cleaning them.
Yes.
Well, it would be scary because all you see is their teeth.
Right.
And it would be like somebody's dog or something.
Yes. Well, like I said, my daddy came from the Upper Peninsula, and my mammy is from Pike County, Kentucky. So I've heard some stories from there as well. Mm-hmm. But if I could, I'm sure the book sounds very, very interesting, to say the least. I'm sure the listeners would be interested in knowing where they could obtain a copy of your book. Where could they get a copy, Lesa, of your book?
You can get it from lulu.com, that's LULU.com, or you can hit me up on Facebook, and if you're locally, I can get you one and autograph it. Otherwise, you would just order it online. And then, like 3 to 5 days, it come to your door. Okay,
well then for the listeners out there, please, I can't wait to get my hands on it and read that book.
Yeah,
especially about all those good breakfasts.
Oh, I tell you, it's like the kind I always tell people, it should be a movie. You might cry a little bit, you're gonna laugh a lot, but overall it's entertaining, and it's just my history from 6 to 60.
Sure, okay.
And so it's my lifespan.
Now, Lesa, I've had the pleasure of coming here and guesting on the Flaming Pit, several times, and I've always enjoyed it. And this is just a great time to get caught up with you. And before we go any further, and I'm sure you'll surely second this, but I appreciate the hard work of John, adjacent to us, that works so hard in making sure that everything runs smoothly and makes us sound good. Mm-hmm. And each time I come to visit with you and John, you make me feel very welcomed, and I appreciate that. And I think a lot of times we take for granted the folks that are behind the scenes. We have the easy part, sitting in front of the microphone. But the folks that are behind the scenes, are the real. They gotta
get make sure our engineers work right, make us look good on screen.
Yes,
right, John.
Yes, sir. John is set too quiet.
John, he's in that chair that he can slide from computer to computer. So when I'm talking to him, he's running over here to this mic and he's running to this mic. But he's actually the brains behind the show and the reason that we do so well. I know we don't do well, but we don't make any money, but we're working on that.
But you know what? We have fun in the process, and I will tell you this. You know what? My greatest tool is my mouth. I don't have any technical expertise. Mm-hmm. I'm so dumb. You could put me in a bag, and I would never find my way out.
Find your way out.
Yeah, you know what? and I'm the type, Lesa. I could go down the street and get turned around and get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how to operate my mouth. I'll never suffer from locked jaw. But you know what? When it comes to having the mechanical engineering aspect, I have no clue as to what's going on.
You get into the technology mode.
And again, I just think that I appreciate folks like John and everybody, but something that I'm a kind of little curious on, and I've had the pleasure, as I say again, of guesting and coming to visit with you several times, but I know you've been a local air personality for a while, but maybe you could just share the story of how you began your radio personality days and your broadcasting career.
Career means I get paid, right, John?
I'm gonna write you a check, Lesa. The check's in the mail.
Oh, it's in the mail. Okay, I'll get that real soon.
And there's one for John too.
Yeah.
John says, "Send me that check." Right. Okay.
Well, John and I used to work together, and he retired before I did, and he and his partner started this whole thing. Before I retired, he came up to the job and he was like, well, Lesa, you should come on our show, create your own show. We'll let you, do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, I have no clue about what I need to do. I don't know. So I had to sort of create my own little thing, my own personality. So back in the 70s, when everybody was on CBs and stuff like that, my handle was Flaminpit. And it's always been Flaminpit something. So when we decided to do the show, then it was automatic going to be called the Flaminpit Show. And it's been 4 years now, and I've had tons of people on the show. And I normally schedule like the whole year. But last year, I didn't do as many because I was working on my book. And I wanted to make sure, I wanted to try to have it out by December, but I missed that deadline. So it came out, I think, was in February of last year. So that's just the crux of getting that started. And now I'm like back on the upswing of bringing people in, starting over 2015. I'm still out promoting the book, and then I'm still looking for, interesting ideas and topics for the show. And it's really fun when we do a hot topic show because pretty much we talk about anything. John is like my co-captain there. So, we're in here just talking about anything and everybody. So
well, you know what? That explains the burning sensation that I've had in my ears.
Because we've been talking about it. But I know, and you've done a lot of things. So now let's mention your wrestling side because everybody, I think that's how I met you first. As
yes.
When we were down, we did the live remote over at the club down there on Dordt Highway.
Yes,
many years ago.
Yes, it was. And you know what? I still recall that. And I don't know if I've ever shared with you. Folks always ask me, what a strange combination. Being a country music entertainer and being a pro wrestling referee.
It is a combination. My son and I was just talking about that. We were like, he's a home health aid worker by day, and by night he's a referee. And then on the other side, he's singing country music. Maybe he should be a singing referee.
You know what? I told them, they said, you know what? They said, you're in pretty good shape physically, which I appreciate that. They said, well, you know what? Have you ever considered being a wrestler? And I said, I don't know. And they said, you're in good shape. And they said, if you did, what kind of gimmick would you use? And I said, it's obvious.
Country singing.
I said, what do you think? I said, I'd be a country singer wrestler. I said, and my gimmick, my finishing move would be, I would sing my opponents into submission.
Or you'd have a guitar and you'd beat them with the guitar.
And, but when they asked me, they said, would you be interested in being a wrestler? And I said, only one thing stands in the way. And they said, what? And I said, age.
Yeah.
And they told me, they said, age is only a number. And my response to that was, yes, and mine's unlisted.
I wouldn't want to be as hard work on the body. I mean, when I watch those guys slamming themselves to the mat and all that, I enjoy watching, like Father Time and people like that. But I don't even watch as much wrestling as I used to. My son still watches it. But a lot of people have changed. My favorite wrestlers are all gone.
Yes.
And so all these new people, I don't even know.
Now, can I ask you who was some of your favorite wrestlers?
Well, I always like Hulk Hogan, of course, and Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Way back, you go further back, you get into Bobo Brazil.
Yes.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The Iron Sheik. When they blow the fire in your face and everybody burn up. You know.
Well, Lesa, my all-time favorite wrestler, you just mentioned him a moment ago, that being the late and great Bobo Brazil. Houston Harris was his real name. Mm-hmm. And he made Benton Harbor, Michigan, his home. Yeah. And I never saw a more popular wrestling personality, and one that was so good with the kids. I understand that Bobo, when he used to train, he would run down the streets in Benton Harbor, just like the old Rocky movies. Yeah. Dun, dun, and the kids would follow him. And
Pied Piper.
Yes.
Well, I like the Junkyard Dog because he come in with the chains around his neck and everybody would start barking.
Yes.
That was on.
But how I got into professional wrestling was I had a grandmother, bless her heart. She had a black swivel rocking chair. And every time I would go over there, it seemed like she'd be watching professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stars you just mentioned, the original Sheik, Bobo Brazil, Dick the Bruiser. Yeah. And I can still see my grandmother sitting there in her black swivel rocking chair, and she would always invite me to come over and sit and watch wrestling with her. Mm-hmm. And I would go over there and sit with her, and I was only probably 6 or 7 years old, and my grandma worked as hard as those wrestlers. I can still see her swinging, cursing,
you start cussing at the
and
TV.
Swinging at the wrestlers. And she would knock me out of the chair, and I would get back up and sit on the edge of the chair. She was a rather large lady, so I didn't have a lot of room to sit. But I would get knocked off on the floor. I'd get back up and sit on the edge of the chair. Well, you know what? I watched wrestling with my grandma. And that was many, many years ago. And you know what? Oftentimes I still think about this. And when someone asks me where I received my training, I smile and very eagerly say, from my grandma.
That was your thrust.
Yes, you know what? She was the one who physically trained me and opened me to and introduced me to professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it now for the past several years. I met you several years ago and what a pleasure that was at one of our local PPW shows. I work for the PPW in Flint. I work for UWA in Saginaw. I do TWA and Metro Wrestling Alliance in the Detroit area. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy doing that a great deal. And if I may, Lesa, I'd just like to mention to the listeners that if you enjoy professional wrestling, make sure you come out to Millington on March the 21st. We're going to be having a big wrestling show, and if you want further information and details on that, you can go to the website, which is prowrestlingatitsfinest.com, and there's going to be a big show on March the 21st out in Millington. Hopefully you and your son will be able to make that, Lesa. And, if you enjoy good wrestling, come on out. It's a family-style entertainment. We'll do our very best to entertain you. Mm-hmm. And I just hope and pray that I survive that and I don't come back battered, bruised, and broken.
That's from all the women chasing him around the ring.
Well, you know what? You know what? Every once in a while, Lesa, I get to referee a ladies' match, and let me tell you something. Those lady wrestlers are tough too. I keep hoping that they're going to get their hands on me.
Last time we saw him, he was laid out in the ring. They came in and cleared the ring. Every referee came in, they laid him out. I just thought that was hilarious.
You know what? I can't tell you how many times I've had those wrestlers reach out and touch me, Lesa. And some of them have been worse than others.
Not in the friendly way.
Yes, you know what? I enjoy meeting folks, and I'm all for experiences, but not painful experiences.
Right.
Let me tell you something. One thing I've learned is being a referee, Lesa, you've got to be quick on your feet. Mm-hmm. And, those wrestlers are big. And let me tell you something. They hit hard. They kick hard. And I run fast.
Well, we're going to wind the show down, Danny. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to come into the pit once again and just make us have such a good day today. And let everybody know if you have any shows coming up, or if they need you to come and do an event for them, like you want to sing for them. Might be some ladies out there.
Well, you know what?
Give them your email address or whatever.
I will, and you know what, Lesa? Let me tell you something. I am always available and ready and willing to have a good time. And
now that didn't sound right. Did it?
Now wait a minute. I'm sitting here with my fingers crossed. Now this is a family style show. Let me back up. I'm ready, willing, and able to have a good time professionally, whether it be a country music entertainer, a pro wrestling referee, or a talk show guest.
Okay. Now that covers everything.
Yeah, now I cleaned it up. But,
okay.
But my email address is very simple. It's DannyPaul5, B as in boy, @gmail.com. And if that doesn't work, I'm easy to find. You can just look under the yellow pages, and I'm listed under Fool. Or you can call Lonesome 77203.
Because nobody uses the phone book anymore to look up stuff.
I've given away my age, Lesa.
Well,
I'm dating myself.
Right.
Oh, Lesa, you're a nice lady. Please, some things go better unsaid. Remember, I said mine was unlisted.
That's right. But according to this, see, I'm 10 years older than you.
Well, you know what? We'll quit while I'm ahead. But I do want to say thank you very much to having me, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in, and thanks to John for all of his hard work out there. But again, Happy New Year. I hope that all of you have a wonderful and a pleasant and safe 2015, and I thank you very much, Lesa.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in. And also, if you want to get my book, it's called Hardcore Survivor, Life of Heartache and Pain. You can go to lulu.com, LULU.com, to purchase it, or you can hit me up on Facebook. It's Lesa, Lesa Quaid, or the Flaminpit Show site, and it's $13.99. So, in saying that, Flaminpit, and we're out.